2016, it's a set of surveys through its own online channel, through which B2Eyes today is distributed every day. It's the only independent optics magazine, and the surveys, apart from the news that you can receive for free by registering to b2eyes.com. It's interesting to have an idea about the market and users. 15,000 users registered, opticians, business representatives and experts. It's a community. And it's a real community. And so at this point we have decided to start with some surveys that Nicola di Lernia, an expert at the market and an opinionist of B2Eyes, will disclose the results of it. And would also like to thank Marie-Dominique Gasnier, chief editor of a magazine in the field of trade and optics, partner of B2Eyes for international communications from France. And I'd like to ask Nicola to now speak about the 3 surveys launched by B2Eyes in the past 2 months. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very short session, but very interesting session, because B2Eyes surveys combined with the BIMVU surveys give a precise idea of how 2 neighboring countries were cousins in a way, Italy and France. We can also have diversified market moments. First of all, I really appreciated the idea launched by B2Eyes to carry out surveys, also because the survey you see just behind me, it had 500 responses, and 500 responses are not little in our sector, optics. You know that 500 operators that help to give an idea of the market. Well, 500 operators are a significant entity. I'm here to read such data and compare with such data with the data given on Friday by JFK at the press conference. And I'd also like to give the floor then to our French colleague that she'll speak about similarities. So, what's the position of 2016 for Italian optical centers? 500 Italian opticians answered in a positive way, and they stated that the situation has improved, and the glass basically is more than half full, and 48%, 34% consider it to be a positive year, and 28% stable, 28% negative. And you know that 2016 was an extremely positive year for eyewear and lenses. To the last quarter, then the market slowed down. The market slowed down, and so those that define the year as a non-positive year, well, simply considered the negative segment of the year. And the negative 4-month period of the year. If I can now switch to the other slide, no? No, I don't have the remote to switch to the other slide. Okay. Then, I must admit that our editor, with a certain degree of courage, asked a simple question, but also complex at the same time. So, question was asked to the opticians, do you believe that there can be a higher degree of cooperation between opticians and eye doctors? Just 4% replied no. It's highly significant. There's a strong need to put things in order. And for opticians, it means that a commitment should be expressed by trade associations, 67%. 29% says that specific roles should be defined. And what I deem to be important, because surveys are not just made up of one single slide, we should consider what eye doctors replied to this question. And so eye doctors consider this form of cooperation important. That's big novelty, Angelo. What do you say about it? If we have just 5% of respondents that believe that things cannot be improved, it's not so negative. And it is considered important to specify rules, behaviors and boundaries. That's what they deem to be important. And here, our publisher asked this question. Luxottica, it's just a bit before when Luxottica got into the field of ophthalmics. So the question was as follows: will Luxottica, once in the ophthalmic sector, change something for Italian opticians? And the reply is basically connected to reduced marginalities. And you can have multiple interpretations of it. It means that the retail sector sees that a major player gets into the system. Retailers survive thanks to the cash flow generated by the business of lenses, and it's obvious that 52% consider it to be significant. And we have 50% subdivided into those that believe that nothing will happen, or that we shall have good prices, and they define the other half full glass. Yes, they see that somebody gets into the market of survival and development, but at the same time they believe that there will be other players working to their benefit, and it's a break-even result for opticians. And if we think about the merger nowadays, it would be interesting to see what the situation is like. Thanks a lot, Nicola. That's the situation in Italy. Let's now get to...
Mensile francese alla fine di to explain and to comment the results of your last survey, which was published in one of the last issues of your magazine.
Yes, buonasera a tutti. We have made, Bienvu has made these two surveys during January, last January, and it was made through our social medias, Twitter and Facebook. And we had almost more than 1,000 answers. 72% of the answers were opticians owners, and 56 were independents. You have to know that in France, in fact, there is almost 50% of the opticians who are independents, and their market shares represents almost 29%. So we have another representation of the owner opticians and of the independent opticians in this survey. So first, the first question was, what is the evolution of the average basket? We have made this survey on 015, and we have compared the two surveys, 015 and 016. So what we noticed is that for 44% of the opticians, the average basket decreases. It increases for 30% of the opticians, and for 26% it was stable. In fact, this decline is due to several factors which are peculiar to the French market. First of all, this is the impact of the managed care networks. In fact, in France, there is now managed care networks, which concerns, some of them concerns 2,000 opticians, and the biggest concerns almost 7,000 opticians. So it's one optician on two is in a managed care network. So this is the first reason. The second reason is the growth of the low-cost chains in France. In France now, one store created on 5 is positioned on low-cost. And the third reason, I may say, is due to the third reason, sorry, is the last law in France. Because now, for the reimbursement, there is a maximum amount reimbursed for optical products. This is 150 euros for the frames, and between 200 and 800 euros for lenses. So this is the three reasons that explain that decline. When we look to the type of opticians, we can notice that in fact independent opticians seem to better resist. But when you look at the details, it is mostly the chain that show a wider range of increases and decreases in their average basket. The second survey was about the merger between Essilor and Luxottica, which are two big groups and two leaders on the French market. So we have asked to these opticians if they were worried, why they were worried, if they think that this merger can change something on their business, or if it was for them an opportunity to grow and to develop their business. As you can see in the results, a large majority of French opticians are worried, almost more than 70%. Worried, why? Because they are worried of lower margins and lesser ability to negotiate with a market giant. and they are worried about their diminishing independence. But in fact, I think that it's too early just now to know exactly what change can occur in the French market with this merger. It's too early to know exactly what the new big giant Essilor-Luxottica will change on the optical market. Thank you.
Grazie Marie-Dominique. Ecco, vorrei chiedere a Nicola.
How he considers such two markets and the comparison between such two markets, especially after these two qualitative surveys. They are slightly comparable, and the Italian market, well, here we're speaking about a merger. And I can say that the high level of concern expressed by French opticians originates from the fact that as Essilor is a French company and as it's a question of lenses, there's big concern. That's my interpretation. However, they think that much is based on lenses, so the French are quite concerned. And this concern is added to the fact that results of 2016 were not so positive, just like in Italy. And according to GfK, we had plus 2% in terms of sell-in. Lenses plus 0.5 and so on and so forth. A strong increase in progressive lenses. Italy in 2016 in the optical sector has a sell-in which is not 2 digits, but it's just as we had won a soccer game. And in France, they're a bit concerned because the market at the moment is not so thriving. I don't know if we have questions from the audience. And I'd like to ask 2 questions to the 2 speakers. Actually, it's the same question. A magazine just like Bienvenue and B2Eyes, and why do you carry out such surveys, and why an optician should answer to the questionnaire?
Behind this kind of surveys for Bienvenue, and why an optician should reply, should participate?
In fact, we're making a lot of surveys almost monthly to know exactly what is the evolution in the store, in the business. And we are making this through our social media.
Okay. E Nicola, per l'Italia?
I reply with figures, and in the case of the Luxottica survey, 600 people responded, and relationship between optician and eye doctor, 400, and so on and so forth. And when you consider important themes, major themes, B2Eyes and Bienvenue, well, should ask questions, and you have the response by opticians. So, may surveys be welcome. That's good. If there are no questions at this point, I'd like to thank our guests, 2 guests. Thank you so much.
C'est vous.